to the third episode of Booty and Brains podcast. Today we're going to talk about some alien abduction stories. We're going to read some stuff off Reddit and then put some of our own personal experiences or other things that we've heard into it.
Cool.
So that's going to be really cool. One thing I wanted to go over with you though first was what are some of the characteristics of an abduction? How can somebody tell? Before we go into the stories, how would somebody be able to tell
if they're being abducted?
Yeah.
The number one telltale signs is missing time.
Yeah.
Is the first one. Just patchy memories, not remembering how you got somewhere, and if you're in a car and you're driving and then suddenly an hour or two goes by and you're like, what happened with those 2 hours?
Yeah.
That's a classic sign of abduction.
Mm-hmm.
And same with, just not remembering, suddenly having a memory blank for over an hour, over a few hours where you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Which I've had happen to a friend before.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously seeing a UFO in the sky or anything weird in the sky, doesn't mean you're going to be abducted though.
No.
I would say,
maybe unexplained sort of marks.
Well, that too, yeah. So there's tons of there's this thing called scoop marks, which people get. Looks like an ice cream scoop in your skin, but it's healed and it can just appear out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Or if you or if you saw UFOs in the past and then start getting these weird marks and you're like, how did I get that? I have no idea. But by chance you've also seen UFOs and that could be a sign.
Yeah.
I feel like those are the main things. Missing time, strange marks on your body, having memories of UFOs and stuff, and having one of those signs with it would be a telltale for that. Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into our first story then. It's called Childhood Abduction Story, an injection and then a weird lasting feeling of love. Hello. When I was around 6 years old, I experienced what I thought was an incredibly vivid dream. That's what I believed for years before reading some similar stories. Here goes. I remember waking up during the night in a small, shiny room. For some reasons, I knew I was aboard some kind of flying ship. I was lying on a table, the ceiling was low, and there were lights in the walls. 2 beings were behind me, a small one and a taller one. Only the smaller spoke to me. He was friendly and told me they would proceed with an injection. I was kind of nervous, but also in a very relaxed state. They gave me the injection. I don't remember feeling any pain, but right after, I weirdly felt an incredible sense of pure love. Love for those beings and love from them. First thing I knew, I was back in my bed, amazed by that incredible vivid dream. Because what else could that be? At that moment, I had never heard or seen anything about alien abductions. The thing is that feeling of pure love stayed with me for a very long time. I have to mention here that I was at that moment a very lonely child from a young couple that were extremely cold with me and annoyed by my presence. They resented having a child and made no effort to hide it, often reminding me that I should behave and be extremely grateful that they didn't give me up for adoption. So that feeling of pure love was something totally new for me. I felt filled with it for a long time. I remember even talking about it with great enthusiasm to some puzzled kids on the playground. For a long time, I was hoping that they would come back. I was even happy to visit the doctor's office because I weirdly associated that love with everything around the medical field. To my knowledge, they never came back, but I now check most of the classical signs of being an abductee. I see some strange lights in my room during the night, lights that my boyfriend also saw once. I have some weird intuition and knowledge, and also 2 other really annoying signs, which is suffering from multiple chemical sensitivities and tinnitus. As I said, I brushed it off thinking it was a weird dream until I read some similar accounts and took note of the classical signs of alien abductions. I also had a recurring dream for years. I would be gazing at the stars at night. Suddenly, some stars would start spinning and twirling. At first, in those dreams, I'm always amazed. Then the feeling of joy turns into pure terror when I realize that they are back. I always feel a great uneasiness when I wake up from that dream. Again, I've read a lot of descriptions that fit this dream scenario perfectly on forums. I also read on the net a weird theory that links those injections that aliens are doing on humans for some tests. Maybe a way to expose our bodies to alien elements to after harvest the antibodies we produced against it, thus the allergies and multiple chemical sensitivities. Since I've read that, I am now convinced that that strange feeling of love and safeness they induced is only a form of manipulation to be able to experiment on us more easily. If it is really the case. That was my story. Only 2 persons I trust have been told. Aside from that, I am, in my own opinion, a well-balanced person with a great life, a great job, and everything. I'm now curious to read your thoughts about it.
Interesting. So that is definitely like a more rare abduction case, actually, compared to all the ones I've seen. But there is stuff in there that I've heard of before, multiple times. Making her feel love and feel really good and all of that. I've seen on so many other like forums and abductee like things saying that the reptilians and the greys make you feel like at first you're super scared and everything, and then they'll make you feel really good, and that's always a sign that they're bad. If you don't feel good immediately, then they're probably evil. Okay. But they do know how to like manipulate the way our brains are with chemicals, and they know how to make us feel that pure love feeling because they've studied our brains and stuff. So that's why, just like she said, she thought they were injecting or making her feel that love feeling so that they could experiment on her. Yeah. That's like 100%
interesting.
Correct.
But what if, like, because it was like when she first had the encounter, it wasn't like fear at all from what it says in the beginning. Like there was it was instant, like, really good feelings and everything.
She said she felt, did she say she felt like comfortable?
There was like kind of,
like she
was like kind of nervous, but
relaxed.
in a really relaxed. Oh, really?
Exactly. So that's because they made her feel relaxed with like obviously a drug or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But she said she would see those lights in her room. I feel like, it's hard. If they, the fact is she didn't feel a pure love feeling at first.
Right.
If it's a benevolent being, and which there are benevolent beings out there, they will make you feel the pure love immediately. Yeah. And that's how you know if it's a benevolent being. Okay. If not, they could be benevolent or kind of both. Like evil or good. Okay. But that's just, super weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because my, one of my thoughts when I read that was, what if, like, at first it was the good ones, and then, like, some, like, some, like, bad ones, if that is the thing that's happening, like, came and, like,
took over.
Tried to make her scared of, like, what she felt before.
So you know what I mean? So that she doesn't, ones. That could be a thing.
So that there's not a trust, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because overall it seemed like a positive experience. Like, why would you, like, and especially to a child that, like, isn't feeling love at home
at all,
at all, and, like, really having a negative time, like, you would think that would be something that they could,
like, yes, they're trying
would gravitate towards. Yeah, that's just my thought.
Yeah. I don't think the benevolent ones can really, like, track where the benevolent ones are, or know if somebody's been with the benevolent ones. Yeah. But it, like, really depends on so many things, like what type of benevolent one contacted her first. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, benevolent ones won't come into your room, though.
Oh, really?
Only, like, negative ones will go into your space without asking and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But that's, like, the description of what I said for a normal abductee at the beginning is still the regular description. That's, like, very different. Yeah. They tried to get her when she was young. Yeah. But one of the other, generic abductee things, or what's the word, like, telltale signs, is dreams for sure. 100% they can come to you in dreams and standing at the end of your bed. Lots of people will first sometimes actually mistake an abduction or ETs as, like, demons at the end of their bed.
Oh, really?
When really it's actually just the extraterrestrial. Or they'll think it's a ghost.
Weird.
And, like, at the end of the bed, very common thing. Very,
Yeah.
very common thing. If they come to get you, they'll be at the end of your bed. You'll see lights out your window and...
Yeah.
Yeah, the evil ones.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just, yeah, it's really weird. I wonder if she, like, ever had that experience again.
Mm-hmm.
But the allergy thing, I have heard people getting abducted and their body's never the same again.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard, like,
There's
that.
been tons of crazy... One of the other really common ones is pregnancy. Like a woman getting pregnant and then suddenly she's not pregnant after 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that literally was the case for that woman in Cloverdale. Remember that episode of like Alien Mysteries that we used to watch. That woman in Cloverdale.
And like sexual assault. Like there's lots of abduction stories where like a guy will think he's with a really hot girl and suddenly he turns into an alien and he's fucking an alien and he's like, and he's like, what the hell? But because they want to crossbreed us and like, which has to do with them testing the chemicals on her, it like links to that. Because the reason why they're trying to mix their DNA with ours is because they want to be able to walk on this earth and breathe in our air without like, without having like chemical reactions. Yeah, they don't have to wear a spacesuit. They rather just wear an actual flesh suit.
Yeah.
Wow, which is
weird.
a whole nother thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that like I was saying before, that woman in Cloverdale, like she actually like had she saw the big huge like craft going over Cloverdale and she had missing time, right?
Turn my phone off.
Okay.
Yeah, missing time, number one.
She had the missing time and she didn't even believe that she was gone for that long, and it ended up ending her relationship because the guy thought that she had cheated on him and she left and did all this stuff, but she didn't. She thought she was standing in her backyard the whole time and she was looking up this thing, but then she started to remember what happened to her, and she was actually like literally like the same kind of thing, like laying on a table and like she said she was looking around and she could see like a bunch of like what looked like babies in fucking jars.
Yeah, and another telltale abduction thing is them coming after they impregnate you, like weeks later, being like, "This is your baby, but like you can't have it."
Oh my god!
And they'll also like in the rooms sometimes they'll see like half human, half ET looking beings just standing there like watching what they're doing. Yeah.
Oh.
Who knows if we'll see it in another story, but
yeah,
it's and electronics not working and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just like also like heat, and sometimes with UFO abductions, they like the place where the UFO sightings, the place where it was is like burned from like not radioactivity burns, like what is it, nuclear, almost like mixed between nuclear type of burns on the whole grass and the trees and the bushes, wherever it is, it's all like burnt, like chemically burnt. Yeah. After it leaves.
So weird.
And like some people have reported cases of like with the lights feeling warm and like burning them, but could be a different type of alien because there's tons of different types. Yeah. So.
Yeah, because she said like it wasn't even just in her family, like the woman in Cloverdale. She and multiple other females in her family would have tons of miscarriages. Like that was the thing that was in the family. Like they would be pregnant and then they wouldn't.
I hate that.
So like it's just so strange, and it was like, how common is that for like a bunch of
I wonder if you can find and link this, but one of the most convincing things I saw when I was researching alien stuff was they're literally, and this is true, you should be able to find it. Okay. There's multiple documentaries that talk about it, but there is cavemen drawings or like aboriginals. There's drawings on the walls of a woman's egg and a needle going into it.
Right. I do know what you're talking about.
They literally fucking had aboriginals or cavemen, literally one or the other, drew genetic engineering on the wall. Yeah. And said that it was told to them by the sky gods.
Yeah. Yeah, that part is like really strange. So, that's where you can't deny.
It's like, okay, how could they even know genetic engineering existed
when it didn't?
In like 12,000 BC or some shit.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Forever ago.
Long time. In ancient times, let's just say. Let's just say that. Yeah, that's a thing.
And then that goes to this. Yeah. And there's also, you can link this too. There's a book called The Star Child. Yeah. And it's about this guy who is an archaeologist, I think, and he stumbles upon a skull that looks like a human skull, but then he's like, wait a second, that doesn't really look like a human skull.
Oh, yeah,
and then he actually gets it DNA proven.
Yeah.
That it's, like, it took a year for him to get the results back, because this was way back in the early 2000s. And it was 50% human, 50% unknown.
Right.
Straight 50.
Wow.
And, like, the science community just told him to F off, basically, because they're like, nobody will accept this. And he's like, but it's DNA proof.
Yeah.
So there's, like, tons of weird things under the microscope he found that he was like, this is weird.
Yeah.
And, so that's one you should link, because that's a really interesting
definitely.
thing.
I actually remember you showed me that, like, 9 years ago.
Yeah, I showed that to my dad, because I was like, you can't tell me this isn't true. It's DNA proof. I was like, it's fucking DNA proof. Like, what else are you going to say?
Yeah.
Like,
it's true, though.
Like,
what else can you say?
Something genetically engineered it, and anyway.
Strange. Okay, you ready for another one?
Yes.
This person wants to know if they were abducted. Okay. Story time. I was 15 years old when this happened to me. Since then, I've had a few weird dreams concerning UFOs, but never any alien species. Anyway, here we go. 3 a.m., go figure, typical for a horror movie. In the summer of 2001, I was woken up by my little sister. While standing over me, she says, "You need to come look at this now," in a calm voice. She then walks over to the window that exposes our backyard from inside my room. She peeks through the window and points, saying, "Look." At this point, I was annoyed because I was sleeping just fine. I got up and looked, and to my shock, there was a UFO as typically described, a silver disc-shaped craft about the size of 2 apartment buildings in width, yellow, blue, red lights turning on and off at the bottom of the disc, and of course, the middle white light. I stood there shocked at what I was witnessing. All of a sudden, my sister, who is 3 years younger than me, says, "Well, I'm going back to bed." Yeah, I was confused as to why she wasn't as intrigued as me. Then I thought, if the craft is right there, where the fuck are the little green men? In panic, I started looking everywhere my eyes can see for little green men. Of course, I never found any, but in the situation I was in, I got a little panicked. Then a loud voice in my head, as if God himself was speaking to me, said, "Go back to bed. Everything is going to be okay." I felt this calming sensation come over me that was so convincing, I submitted to its will. I turned around and laid back in my bed. I never fell back asleep for the rest of that night. Curiosity kept me up. Then eventually the calming effect wore off, and I started to mildly panic again. Upon sunrise, my sister woke up as if nothing happened that night. Me, still in shock, looked at her and said, What the fuck was that last night?" Her, confused as to what I was talking about, laughed at me and said, "I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm sure it was life-changing." Pats me on the back with sarcastic intent. To this day, I have asked her several times if she remembers the UFO, and she still gives me shit about it as if I'm crazy. I know what I saw. Anyway, I noticed a few days later, I had this burn-type scar on my arm, like I was branded or something. It almost looks like a birthmark, but a burn. It wasn't there before. I have no idea where it came from. Was I abducted? Were they showing me their ship? Have other people ever been burned after a sighting, or am I tripping? I still look at that scar today and think of the UFO. I swear it's connected.
Yeah, 100%. I think she was abducted. The burn scar thing, because, yeah, scoop marks are one of them, but there is a lot of, like, triangle burn scars and, like, weird, weird patterns. And the fact that the calming effect was, like, the other story.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that she was scared first and felt uncomfortable and then felt the calming effect is kind of what I was saying. Like, if you're scared at first, like, it's probably bad.
Yeah.
And probably they wanted her to go to sleep so that they could fucking do more. But I think that she was going to sleep around 3 a.m., right? She woke up to her sister, right?
Her sister woke her up at 3 a.m.
Okay, so I'm thinking what happened was she got abducted before her sister woke her up.
Oh, okay.
And then they erased her sister's memories, because that's super easy for them to do.
Yeah.
And Yeah, and then they wanted to continue on her, but she didn't want to. She wanted to stay up. So they, and that calm voice, that's actually something I've heard of in other abduction stories, which is really interesting. Because when I've heard it in the other abduction stories, it's not always a bad thing.
No.
But there is, like, people have reported, like, they'll hear a whisper in their ear or somebody say, it's okay, don't worry.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. Like, it's okay. Which makes sense, because that's what they're... With the girl who got the injection in her arm, she said one of them were there making her feel okay.
Yeah.
I was like, don't worry, it's going to be okay. Like, I wonder if it's the same ones that are whispering in the ear.
Yeah.
Their, like, job is to calm people down.
Weird. It's like a...
And the fact that the calming effect wore off, I think is very bizarre.
Yeah, like a drug or something.
Yeah.
Like, sort of like a...
Invisible one that we can't... Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, I think so. I think she was obviously abducted. I think her sister's memories were just fully erased.
Yeah.
I think she should do hypnosis to find out what happened during that time.
That would be interesting.
I still can't remember mine from my one experience, but I tried to go see hypnosis, but they said they couldn't get through probably because I'm hypnotized.
No, I know.
But yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah, I know. I know that like mental health stuff does block a lot of that. Yeah. Being able to get in there because your mind is too
it's like
busy. No. Yeah. What happened in your experience? What was yours? I forget it.
When I was like 17-ish, 18, I was like extremely obsessed with alien stuff and UFOs and sci-fi, and
as we know,
I was just like going hardcore into it at the time, like so hardcore. Like I would say now, I was definitely kind of losing my mind. Mm-hmm. And I was just researching every day new UFO abductions and would go to the newest posted one every fucking day. And I would just like endlessly look stuff up all the time, And I was just like, I just couldn't not do it.
Yeah.
And then this is one experience after other experiences that I had, but it was summertime and I would lay out in front of my parents' garage area, like at the front driveway.
Yeah.
And I would like look at the stars because where I live I can see quite a few stars. Yeah. And I was reading a bunch of stuff online saying that aliens speak telepathy. So I was like, oh, I guess if I just like lay here and look at the stars, I could just say, come and get me.
Yeah.
So every fucking night, probably for 3 weeks straight, I laid in the driveway, looked at the stars, and I was like, I'm still here, like, I'm ready, like, I would like to be taken, and I have my own reasons why I wanted to contact them, and at this time, I knew there was good ones and bad ones.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the stars and just putting that message out there, here I am, I really want to have contact, please, like, come contact me, please. And... and then I continuously, like I said, every day looked stuff up. I was always looking outside at the sky at night, like not just under the driveway with a camera or not a camera, a telescope type thing.
Yeah.
And, so then one day came where I was just hanging out with my friends. I was hanging out with my friend, I think, Chris, Phil, and Tyler, and Silgi.
Yeah.
And Phil I actually just met through Silgi, and he was, like, just regular, really nice kind of soccer Joe. He's into soccer a whole bunch. Kind of preppy. Just like regular guy.
Yeah.
So we were all hanging in my backyard. Smoked a little bit of weed, but I was a hardcore stoner ever since I was 14. So at this point, like, I had a tolerance. Like, I didn't get fucked up on weed. Like, I was there.
Yeah.
And I had like a little bit. They had a bit. They were probably super stoned.
Yeah.
But regardless, we went into my living room for a little bit, and they were like, tell us some ghost stories, because my house was haunted growing up, and that was the house we were sitting in, so I was like, okay, I'll tell them some ghost stories. So I'm like, in the middle of me telling them ghost stories, probably after about 15, 20 minutes, that Phil guy was like, Luna, somebody's telling me they want to talk to you. And he said, I don't know how to explain it, but it's this voice, this woman's voice in my head is telling me that she wants to talk to you. And I was really caught off guard, and I immediately was just like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And I was like, are you fucking with me? And he's like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm actually having this really weird, I'm feeling really good in my head. He's like, what did I say? I immediately told him, do you feel good or bad? And he said he felt a really good, loving feeling from this woman.
Yeah.
And at this point, I thought because I was talking about ghost stuff, that it was a ghost from my house trying to fuck with me.
Yeah.
Because at the time, I thought I had a female ghost in my house, which wasn't the case.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so then I was kind of like, okay, well, what's her name? So I started to think that maybe this ghost was talking through him.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, her name's Becky. And it's hard for me to talk about this because I have missing time.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I bring it up, I remember things I didn't remember the last time, or I can't remember anything.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to talk about because it just like blank memory spots.
Yeah.
But I'm talking to him about it. I ask him what she looks like, and he said that she just was smiling and laughing and like looked really happy and was laughing.
Yeah.
And I was like, in my head, I'm like, is this ghost trying to mock me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are they laughing out of evil? I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
But he tried to tell me very much so that he was feeling a good feeling from her and a good vibe.
Yeah.
Which I did read about aliens before, like I was talking about earlier. You can tell usually if they're a benevolent being if they have a pure love, positive feeling. And
Yeah.
if you ask the universe if this being is of love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking to him. I asked her, why couldn't you just talk to me?
Right.
Why do you have to talk through Phil? And she said, well, something's blocking me. Like, there's a reason why I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And said that basically she couldn't explain it to us. And at this point, I'm starting to be like, okay, maybe it's not a ghost because this is getting a bit weird. And then I'm not sure when this part happened, but there was a part where I realized it was not a ghost and it was an alien. And I said, why did you decide to talk to me today? Like, why? And she said, oh, I just wanted to see what would happen. And I was like, okay. And then I asked, like, have you been hearing me? Like, have they been hearing me? And she was like, yeah, that's why I wanted to see what would happen. And I wanted to ask you some stuff, basically.
Yeah.
And then I started to, like I said, I realized it was an alien. And then my memory just, like, it blanks. It's so hard for me to remember.
Yeah.
I started asking her about a bunch of alien stuff that I knew, and she kept replying to me all correctly. Like, there's no way this Phil guy knew any of this shit. Like, I wasn't even, like, I wasn't giving any hints towards anything. Like, him started talking about gray aliens, reptilians, like, Illuminati, like, everything. Yeah. And there's no way this guy Phil knew about that. And me and Phil talked about it later, too. Yeah. But as I'm talking to her, I said, well, is there something you can tell me so I know that Phil isn't bullshitting me right now and this isn't just all bullshit? Yeah. Something that he wouldn't know. Mm-hmm. And 5-6 months prior to this whole situation happening, I had my friend Cody. He had a friend who actually got shot in the head in war and, like, has, like, a bunch of memory loss. He actually has short-term memory within 5-10 minutes. Actually, I think it was exactly 7 minutes. He forgets everything and his brain resets to where it was before the gunshot. So he can only recognize and remember people that he knew before his memory loss. Oh, so he, like, he would write on his hands, like, remember this person, this is a new person you met. He had to write stuff down all the time to remind himself what's happening because he would just always forget. And Cody, he knew before. Yeah. So Cody was like, it's fine if I'm here, he'll know that you're a friend. And this guy actually had one of the highest IQs in BC. Don't know how to prove that. Mm-hmm. But he had, like, pages and pages of stuff he's written about ancient civilizations, and he was a huge nerd, totally into alien stuff. So I was, like, obviously talked to him about it nonstop. Every 7 minutes he'd forget who I was, and then I'd talk about it again. Yeah. And it was just so cool. And I had, like, piercings. Like, I had a septum piercing that was, like, the 2 balls at the end. I had a piercing here and then 2 piercings here. Mm-hmm. And he was like, has anybody ever told you that your piercings look like Orion's belt? Oh. And I was like, no, nobody's ever told me that before. And he's like, yeah, it's exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, oh, it's really cool. Like, I never thought about that. Interesting. And I always thought that was really awesome and super cool. And, like, I never forgot that because I love constellation and stars and all that. Yeah. And, so I'm sitting talking to Phil, and he's like, your piercings look like Orion's belt.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, okay. So then I realized it fully was an alien 100%. And then she ended up telling me that she also wanted to know. She said that I was being reckless and that me laying out there saying, "Come and get me," she's like, "We can all hear you."
Oh.
She was like, every all of us can hear you. It's not just me. And she said, "You know that there can be malevolent and benevolent beings, but there's some that are good and bad."
Oh.
And I was like, "Yes." And she told me, "How will you know in the future if you have contact if they're benevolent or not?" And I said, "Oh, well, I'm going to ask my inner self in the universe of pure love if it's a being of love and light."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "Good, that's what I wanted to hear."
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And then, right around then, I have one other thing I remember during this whole thing. In the middle of it, he was like, "Oh, somebody else wants to talk to you." And then some other being came through and said hi, and then went back to Becky.
Yeah.
So it's almost like he was like a little telepathy fucking antenna for like them to come through.
Yeah.
And then, my sister came downstairs. My parents were away this day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, this is going to kill the vibe," basically. So I was like, "Can we go downstairs to the basement?" And I asked Phil, and Phil was like, "She says yes." So then we went to the basement, and don't remember like 5 hours.
What?
And we didn't do any drugs. These guys don't rape me or anything like that. Because then what happened was all of a sudden it was 10 p.m. and we were all sitting on the couch in the basement, and we were all like, "Do you remember what just happened the past like 3-4 hours?" I think it was 3 o'clock and then it was 9 o'clock, so 6 hours, about 6 hours. And I was like, "No, how do we?" I was like, "How do we get here? Like, why is it so late? Like, what have we been doing?"
Yeah.
And all the other guys were just kind of like dumbfounded, didn't really like say anything. And then Phil was more talkative, like, "I don't know, that's really weird." And then the rest of that night, I think they just kind of went home, and I just don't really remember really what happened that night after that. And then the next day, I talked to Phil, and I was like, "That was fucked." And he was like, "That was effed up. My whole like viewpoint has changed."
Wow.
And then I asked him like a week later too. I'm like, he said, to this day, he's like, "I never bullshitted you." But now he actually doesn't remember that much of that time. I actually tried to reconnect with him. But back then, yeah, he was like stuck to his word. He was like, but he remembered a lot less than me.
Yeah.
He didn't remember barely anything that went on. He just remembered something really weird happened, and that like it wasn't bullshit. He knows something weird happened. And all the other guys just thought we got really stoned, and they just thought we played video games, and that's just not what happened. So I think we got abducted, or I got abducted, or I don't know. But then later on down the road, I found out that actually extraterrestrials, like their wavelength and like vibration they're on is so much higher than ours that if they talked through you, you wouldn't be able to remember anything because their brains can't process it.
Oh.
So that's why they have to talk through another person, because there's more likely a chance you're going to remember what they're talking about.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, because our brains literally cannot comprehend their wavelength. So, and when she said something's blocking me, it could have been like to do with why I can't have hypnosis done. Like maybe she couldn't get in either.
Interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And then I asked her if it would. I do remember asking her too before we went in the basement, like, "How do I get this to happen again? Will it happen again?" And she said, "Don't get distracted."
Yeah.
She's like, "Don't get distracted and continue to try. Like, don't let life distract you. And there will be another person." But then I let life distract me. So I really want to find out what happened during that 6 hours and what I talked about, because I remember when we went downstairs, I just fucking went at it with her because I had so many questions and so many things about the universe, and I was waiting for context, so I was like ready. I was like, I'm gonna talk about everything, and then I just don't remember anything. And I tried to do hypnosis to retrieve those memories, but they couldn't. It didn't work.
No,
they couldn't get in there.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, I have something else. Something else here, called mysterious surgeries. So, has anyone ever had an ailment that could only be fixed with surgery mysteriously disappear? I had I don't know how to say that word, inguinal hernia develop around the age of 11. When I went to the doctor to have it looked at, they told me unless it was causing me extreme pain to just leave it be and make sure to keep the area supported whenever I was active. I lived with it for close to 15 years until one day I realized there wasn't a bulge anymore. After inspecting my groin area, I noticed a roughly 2-inch burn mark on my inner groin that was definitely not there before the hernia disappeared. I always found that odd. Does anyone else have a familiar experience?
So I've heard of that before too.
Have you?
Yes, and lots of abductees.
Yeah.
They will have ailments or cancer just gone the next day.
Yeah.
Just disappeared. And sometimes they will actually communicate to the person and be like, I'm going to fix this for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of abduction cases where people like have some like crazy disease also and stuff that just can't be cured. And like they fix it.
Wow.
They fix it for them. But it's also like if it's the evil ones fixing it, they're fixing it so they can fuck with you anyway.
Right.
They want you to be healthy so they can screw around.
Yeah, but why wouldn't they just choose a healthy person? Like, what do you think there's like certain thing that makes somebody a good candidate for it? I've heard like the blood that there's like the blood type thing.
It could be a
and
blood
that
type thing.
a lot of people that are abductees have like green eyes. Fucks me up because I got green eyes.
My eyes are greenish too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do think though that's common.
But like, I wonder what it is that makes somebody like a good candidate for them. Like maybe
they just really wanted. They could be they could be testing human memory and stuff like, oh, what if I take this away? Will this person realize what happened? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's bizarre if she hasn't had any other experiences, like anything else that's like linked to that.
Yeah.
But there has been cases with cattle.
Yeah.
Where cows, because we all know the generic thing where cows get abducted.
Yeah.
There is like farmers who have had their cows like be sick and then get fixed.
Yeah.
And they're like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Overnight. Or like weird, like they find cows dead in their field, but they have like C-sections on them and have been surgically, their organs have been removed and stuff.
Or like the blood drainage.
But they try to say that, oh, it could be from some cultural, whatever, like people coming and taking into a cultural sacrifice. But the way that it's opened up and everything is like high technology.
Perfect. Yeah.
Like there's no way it was done by some fucking person doing some sacrifice for the religion.
Just like
and the farmers know that. They're like, this is not normal. Like this is not just somebody coming by stealing organs from farmers. Like it's just there's a lot of stuff about farm. Lots of proof with cattle and stuff.
Yeah, even lots of stuff like happens on farms, right? Like both my mom and my mother-in-law like both saw, UFOs and stuff. Like Joel's mom when she was younger with her sister, and then my mom when they first moved to the farm.
Yeah.
When she was on the FaceTime with me, remember I saw that picture.
Yeah. Because it's empty. It's a good spot for nobody to see.
Yeah.
They just don't give a fuck. They're like, all right, nobody's here. We'll leave a giant crop or crop circle. They can be made by people, but not the way that the UFOs do them. The way the UFOs do them is they actually it's like weird burns all over the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
But
like so perfect. Like you wouldn't be
radioactive able to burns.
Yeah, not just like normal. Like you wouldn't be able to take your fucking lawnmower and.
They actually been able to measure radioactivity from the burns, like with a device.
Really? Yeah. So the other thing that this person had said was that the doctors were really confused and that it just basically like vanished without a trace, like whatever this person had, and that's like unheard of, and it was so unheard of, and it happened so infrequently that a paper was written in the only other documented instance of one disappearing on its own. Do you think it's like another one of the things that just like crossed through my mind like just now is like, do you think it's like us from the future like coming back to like use it and test like things that are wrong or that we're trying to figure out in the future, or that maybe we need data from?
Well, I mean, anything's possible. I think that most of the time it's probably the evil beings, but there's a chance that could be a thing too, for sure.
Yeah, because
there's so many different species of beings and like their time and space and the multiverse theory. Like I definitely believe that could be possible. Maybe those two instances were only from future us.
Yeah, just so interesting to think about, because like how are we ever gonna really know?
Yeah.
Right? Unless you like get abducted and you remember everything, or you know, the government tells us everything, which they won't.
That's the problem. Is like people who do get abducted and publicize it really hardcore.
Yeah.
The government's going to come and threaten them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll stop talking about it, or they'll delete everything because they'll threaten them and be like, you can't.
Yeah, because didn't that happen to, like, it was like Billy Meyer or something? Do you remember that? The Billy Meyer thing?
I don't know about the Billy Meyer case anymore.
Okay.
Because it was told. I'm wondering if that happened, though, because it was such a big story. And then just the past 5 years or something, they said that his whole story was debunked and none of it was true.
Oh, interesting.
But I wonder if maybe the only reason it's debunked is because they don't want people to know his story. But that, we'd have to look into that because I don't know why it was debunked, but I did hear that it was all fake, apparently.
Oh, wow.
Which would suck because it is one of the most popular ones.
Yeah. Yeah, like there was a thing on the documentary thing on the Prime Video at one point.
Yeah, it was a huge thing. But one that is never debunked and is still a huge thing is the Arizona Lights and Fire in the Sky. The movie Fire in the Sky, what it was based off of.
Yeah.
It's still not debunked, and those are definitely two really real abduction stories that have happened.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting.
Well, the other one's not an abduction one, but one of them's abduction.
Mm-hmm.
Fire in the Sky is definitely a movie you guys have to watch. And you can watch it. It's not that hard to find. And then after, you can watch the documentary of what really happened and what the story was based off of.
Yeah. So what about have you ever seen, obviously you've probably seen The Fourth Kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about that? Like, I always wondered, like, you know how there was, like, the thing with the owls in The Fourth Kind? Like, is that a thing? Like, is it a thing where people, like, see a specific, like, is it owl, like, actually...
The Fourth Kind was a weird movie. I have heard... It's rare, though. I have heard of them appearing through animals or people having illusion of animals before they get abducted.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I haven't actually heard that much of it.
Yeah.
So in that movie, I thought it was really unique.
Yeah. Well...
But...
Yeah, every time I've seen I fucking hate owls. Like, every time I've seen an owl, it's an extremely bad omen for me. So if somebody says, oh, Brittany, look, there's an owl, I will, like, not look. Because if I look at the owl, like, and I see it, something terrible will happen to me. The first time it happened, like, I was on the couch and I saw it, like, just across the street, just, like, looking at me from below, like, it looked like it was looking right at me. And then it was, like, later that day, like, it was like my parents got into this huge thing, and then it started the role of, like, this divorce, this long, like, terrible thing. And then the second time it happened, we were just out at, like, the breweries, and Crystal was like, oh, look, there's an owl, and I stupidly looked, and then it was, like, a few days later, my sister died.
Oh my God.
I was like, so I fucking, like, have this terrible vendetta against owls just because of the stupid coincidence.
That's super weird, though.
Just like a bad omen, but then...
I wonder if we look it up if there's anything, like, about owls.
Yeah, and it's weird because when I did look it up, it said that owls can either be a really good omen or a really bad one. And they're bad for me. They're just bad.
Every summer I have this owl at my house. I never see it, but I hear it.
You never see it? Okay. Well, don't look at it. Anyways, that's all we've got for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching or listening on Spotify or Apple or YouTube, watching on YouTube. We'll be back really, really soon.
Yeah.
And I hope you like and subscribe and comment to us because we really enjoy comments. I love reading any types of paranormal stories. I'm sure Luna does too. So please.
And anything you want to talk about, any questions.
Yeah, please send them because I love it.
Yes, send them.
Thank you so much. Links to everything of both of ours down below. Okay.
Bye.